I learned to adapt and adjust. If you laughed, I laughed. Because I didn't know how to handle a baby being missing. So if I had to, I looked at other people and whatever they did, because if I laughed, they said that, look at her, she don't even care that she did something to that baby. Look at her over there laughing. She don't even care her baby gone. And if I cried, they like, that girl going crazy. She needs some help. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I couldn't find a place. Nobody told me how to act or what to do. So I laugh when you laugh and I cried when you cried. I just wanted to be normal. So I took on your normal until I could figure out my own. Yeah.
I want you to imagine 16 years old, about to have your first baby boy. You're excited. All the emotions are running through you. This is a very tremendous time in your life, and joy is supposed to come out of this, only to find 5 days later, your baby boy is abducted by a woman that befriends you at the hospital. Today, we're going to tell the story of Raymond Green. His mother is here, Donna Green, to tell her side of the story of how these events played out and what she's doing as an advocate today to help others not endure what she went through. Hi, Miss Donna Green. How are you today?
Hi, Tawana. How are you? I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on the show.
And you're welcome. You're welcome. So when I first went and looked at Raymond's case the first time, I don't think that I looked at it the right way. I really was looking at it this time as you being that 16-year-old girl in the hospital, and the emotions that every woman has when they're having a baby is extreme and overwhelming and joyful. And I thought about that very moment of what happened, or what someone was planning to do while you were at a very precious moment in your life. So what I'm going to do, let's go back to that day. And I want you to tell me, even from the very start of when you came into the hospital, what happened? How did this all start?
When I came into the hospital, I had Raymond immediately. I was almost about to have him on the elevator. So
he was ready.
After I had Raymond, the labor went really, really quick. So right after I had him, I was tired. I took a nap, and around, I guess, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon or something, because I went in that morning, if my memory serves me correctly. I went out to see him because he was such a beautiful baby when I had him that I just couldn't believe he was mine. So I went back out to see him. Went to the nursery, and while I was standing there, a lady came up and introduced herself, a little young lady. She introduced herself and, started talking to me, asked me which baby was mine. I told her which baby was mine. And she pointed to a little girl that said that was her niece. Said her sister was there, but her sister was asleep. So when I got ready to go back to the room, she asked could she come back to the room with me. And I told her it was okay. And she came back to the room with me. Said she didn't want to disturb her sister while she was asleep. And we just talked. And she came back that later that evening again. And she sat in there and talked to me. The next day she came in and we talked. She asked me a lot of questions about Raymond, and I answered them, not thinking that she was asking me for a specific reason.
Right.
So I answered the questions, how much did he weigh? What's his whole name? Did you name him after his dad? What's his dad name? Those kind of questions.
When you look back, was there things that really stood out to you when you look back in hindsight?
Well, hindsight, of course, hindsight is always 20/20. Right. But at that particular time, it seemed like normal questions that you would ask when you're trying to get to know somebody.
Okay.
So that's how I felt. I was just 16, so I was probably at the peak of my naiveness. So so when I got ready to go home, I was packing to go home, and she came in and asked could she get a ride home. because her sister, her ride had left her, is what she said. And
Wow.
the people that I was with said it was okay. And they dropped me off first, which is how she figured out where I stayed at. Now I often wonder sometimes, suppose they had a dropped her off, would this have played out differently? I don't know. But they dropped me off first, and
It probably wouldn't
then
have played out at all because you would have
as a
had. And did you ever ask the people that dropped her off where they took her?
yeah, I did ask them, and they told us, but they didn't take her to a house. They just took her to a particular. I think it was on the corner of Stanton and Delow. That's just a busy
Oh,
area. That's a
right.
busy area, so that she didn't allow them to take her to a house. And that's
Okay.
probably wasn't even the side of town that she would lived on, you know. But
Right.
she showed back up at my house a few days later. Um, came home, I think, on the 3rd. She showed back up at my house on the 6th. And she, I thought it was strange when she knocked on the door. When she knocked on the door and I saw it was her, I thought it was real strange. It was cold outside. I didn't see a car. And I asked her what was she doing there. She was like, I just wanted to come and see how y'all was doing, you and the baby and everything. So I'm thinking, I said, well, how did you get here? She said, on the bus. And I'm thinking she must really want to be my friend. She came all the way over here on the bus, so I let her in. And even though my antenna went up a little bit, I didn't know what that feeling that I was feeling was. I didn't know how to relate to that feeling. So I let her in, and we talked a little while. My brother was in there the whole time, my older brother. And he was in there watching TV and nod, and we kind of watched TV and talked. About an hour later, it's time for me to go freshen up. I was hoping that she would go on and leave, but I didn't want to say that to her.
Right.
So I was like, I'm finna go freshen up. And she was like, oh, I'll just stay, and she stayed. And I told my brother, for some odd reason, I told my brother, watch the baby. I'm going to take a quick shower. You just had a baby, you mess up your clothes or whatever, you gotta go
Right.
run up, take a quick shower. So I said, watch the baby, I'm gonna go take a shower. And then he said, okay, but he seen her sitting there talking to me all that time. I let her in and everything. So he thinking she's a friend of mine. Well,
Comfortable.
she yeah, definitely. So he dozed off and went to sleep. I came downstairs because something I got in the shower. I don't think I was in the shower 5 minutes. Something just kept telling me to get out. And I got out and I just ran downstairs. I was still awake. I had on my clothes, but I ran downstairs to see what was going on. Why was I feeling that? I didn't see the baby on the sofa. And my brother was asleep. I woke him up. I was like, where the baby? He said, oh, your friend. Baby started crying. Your friend picked the baby up and just started walking with him. Well, if she go down this little hall that we had, you can't see her anymore. He said she walked to the door with the baby. Actually, she walked on out. That was the last time I saw her.
And the baby.
Right.
When you first realized like she was gone and the baby was gone, what feeling was going through you? Was it a state of panic? Was it kind of like I'm frozen? What actually emotion were you feeling when you realized like this lady just left my baby?
Fear.
Fear.
That's all
Yeah.
I felt was fear. Fear and uncertainty. What is going on? I never heard anybody taking anybody's baby. I never heard of nobody was missing or anything like that there. So I'm not I couldn't
Familiar.
really understand what was going on. Where was she? Where was my baby and everything?
I was going to ask you that earlier. I was like, the comfortability that you had of her being there with your child is probably because in 1978 you didn't really hear of black children being taken, especially in
Right,
their own communities, out of their
right,
home. So
right.
that was a very that was unique situation.
Exactly.
So what was your brother feeling? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. My brother, I didn't blame him or anything like that because he thought she was my friend.
Right.
He felt real bad. He went out and started looking for the baby, started looking for her, walking up and down the street, asking everybody and everything. I think he was kind of in shock like I was,
Right.
you know. but he thought she was my friend. So that was that whole thing, and I thought I was actually making a new friend.
That was some type of betrayal. So after that, and calling the cops, what was their response?
They came immediately, but it wasn't. I think maybe one car, maybe two. That was it. They came, took a statement or whatever, wrote me around a little bit, and that was it. I didn't hear from them again. Um, they called me a few days later and asked me to come down and just put a lot of pictures in my face and was like, okay, did she have this color hair, this color, what color skin, was it this tone or that tone, and all that their stuff. And then after that, I didn't hear anything else. And then when I was calling them, they would always say, well, if we don't have any leads, if we hear anything, we'll let you know. We don't have any leads. If we hear anything, we'll let you know. And then 2 years later, they did, I think it was like a year later, maybe they did hear something. Another baby got stole, but this particular baby was out of Grady. And the lady that stole the baby, they found the baby. The lady that
Okay.
stole the baby had a 1 year old. So they thought that that 1 year old was mine. So it started everything back up again. And
And
so I had to go down to Grady.
was the 1 year old also abducted? Was that her child or was that child
That was her
abducted?
child. That was her child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So after we did the footprints and everything, it turned out not to be him.
Okay. All right. So you don't have and we talked about this earlier. Your story of Raymond, your actual account with him is very short because it's only 5 days, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
it doesn't matter how long you have your child, it's still something that you birthed and you've had inside of you for a good length of time. Um, I know after a while, you start trying to heal behind it, but how long afterwards did you think like, hey, I might they might not work on this case, right? I might not find my baby.
I actually didn't think that way.
Okay.
I I think years had passed, and the calls got less and less. When I said the calls, me calling them got less and less because it was always the same thing until
Okay.
the calls got none at all. And about 20 years later, after I had stopped calling, but it wasn't 20 years, but I had stopped calling after a while. And then I decided just to go down there and see. All I wanted was to file to see what did they do about the case. And maybe I can do an investigation myself or just see what did they do. And they didn't have the file. So to them, I was this crazy lady coming down there talking about a child that was missing 20 plus years ago, and they didn't have a file. They pulled out a file from 1948 right then and there, but they didn't have a file on him. So I had to go down there 2 or 3 times before finally I got the newspaper article from the library, and I took that down there. And once I took that down there, I asked for the detective. They said the detective had retired and they had no way of getting in touch with him. But I knew that if he retired, he had a retirement fund or something. They knew how to get in touch with him, but they just really weren't interested. And then, so what they did was they allowed me to, after I bought the newspaper article down there, they allowed me to tell what happened again. And they took that and they gave me a number. That's how I got him into NICMIC, National Missing Children.
Okay. So you do have other kids too, right?
I have 6 others, yes.
How did that affect your mothering after Raymond was taken?
Well, because I kept them close. I wouldn't let them go nowhere. If they went to the store, I'm always imagining somebody abducting them or taking them or something. So I kept them real close till they was like, you're just smothering us. We can't do nothing. Like they can't go to the bus stop, anything. Mentally, I was putting all my fears on them.
I mean, I can imagine so because if my baby was taken, I definitely would. The rest of my kids would be. I mean, that's a super grip that you would have on them after going through something like that. See, they wouldn't understand
Right.
that situation. They're just looking at like, what is going on with her? Like, chill out. You know how
Exactly.
kids are.
Right.
Just chill out for a
Exactly.
minute. I'm trying to do my
Right.
thing. But to
Right.
you, all you could see is going out that door and her being gone and your baby being gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. So I knew that if that happened that time, I just wanted to make sure it didn't happen again. But the kids, they really suffered a lot because a lot of things they couldn't do, and I didn't want them out of my sight. And if I would have been, I'd been satisfied if they all slept in my room. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I had to pray and ask God to just help me let them go.
Right.
And he did. Every day I just trust them to go a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And then I had to tell myself, those are your fears. You cannot put those fears on those kids, or they're gonna resent it. So I caught myself in time for them not to be as resentful as they could have been had I
Yeah.
not reasoned with myself by the grace of God.
So after a while, you became an advocate for missing children, right? How long?
Right.
How long? How long? How long have you been doing that work?
Um, I guess about 20 something years. I've been out here trying to help other parents, making sure that they don't feel the way I felt, like nobody cares. Do spotlight on cold cases and, talk to parents. And a lot of times you hear the police don't care, which I understand both sides. The police, if they have no leads, what can they do? You know.
Right.
Um, but as a parent, we don't want to, even if you just call and say, hey, look, we don't have any of these problems, I'm thinking about you, something like that. We want to know that our children matter.
Right.
We want that's what we want to know, because we already heartbroken and living in uncertainty. Is he alive, is he dead, this, that, and the other. And then so you go to the law enforcement and they do all they can. You hope that they're doing what they can. And then if they can't do anything else, that's when we have to step in as parents of those lost and missing and do our part.
I talked to an officer one time, and I was asking him. I was like, what's the why is the reason that you guys don't communicate with missing children families? So currently, just consistently. And he told me, he was like, that's the worst news that you can take to somebody. Like, we don't have anything. We don't have any leads. We don't have
Right.
anything to tell you about your child. Most of police officers, most of them are pretty decent people. They're human. And
Right.
what they think about is, when they're coming to you, is, I have to go tell a mom, like, I don't know where your child is.
Right.
And they know from a parent, most of them are parents perspective, that wouldn't sit well with them. So to deliver that news, keep delivering that news, is, I think it's more or less, it's not them trying not to tell you, it's them not wanting to have to say that to you, and they just don't want to say that. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's understandable. At the same time, we're parents with that.
Right.
See, that's from their perspective. Our perspective is totally different. Say
Right.
something. You know what I'm saying? So, but I push the fact that we as loved ones, we got to get out there and do our part too, because sitting at home, wishing and waiting and just crying and doing nothing, that's not going to help. It doesn't do anything for your mental. But if you're out and about and you're trying to do something, you're trying to make a difference or trying to take away somebody's pain or something, then that helps you out as well. You're
Right.
doing something, but a lot of time what we do, and I understand, because sometimes it's just too painful to do anything. If I do something, it's going to constantly remind me that I'm doing this because of my pain. And some parents don't want to deal with their pain. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do anything because they really haven't accepted or really dealt with their pain. And
Right.
that's a hard thing to do. when your heart is broken, your child is missing. Because I tell people, you want to see what my heart look like. You look at my children. That's my heart walking around on the outside of me.
Mm.
And then they say that, in math, they teach us when a whole is missing a part, it become a fraction. So when you got that child missing, you're not whole anymore. You become a fraction of a person because a part of you is missing. So so I get that. I understand that we don't want to deal with that, but our mental, we have to deal with that, and we have to do it. And you learn that once you get past the initial, and you keep talking and you keep helping, it helps you. It helps you. Not only are you helping other families, but you're helping yourself as well. Not only is that you helping other families, but that's therapy for you as well. That's why I can get out here and do what I do and help people the way I do, because I'm helping myself as well.
You mentioned that there's a piece of you missing when you have a child missing, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, she asked me one day, she was like, "Do you think Jabez is still alive?" And I was like, "No, no." And she was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because there's something missing out of me
Hmm.
that wasn't
Hmm.
that was there before. It was just like somebody had took something out of me, and I knew something had happened."
Right.
Do you have that feeling, or do you think that Raymond is still out there and that you're going to get to see him one day?
Oh, I believe with my whole heart that Raymond is still alive. What I do know is that he don't know who he is.
Right.
So you took a child as an infant, whether you raised them or sold them or whatever you did, that was an infant that has no knowledge, no remembrance of that event. So who you tell him who he is, that's who he is. You know. So I believe he's still alive. I believe that in my heart. I believe I'll see him one day. I do. Um, but I believe that he don't know who he is. So it's up to me to keep it out there every which way I can. That's why I don't turn down too many opportunities to talk to him. And I don't turn down too many platforms to say who he is, or, because I believe he's out there and you just never know. You just never know.
Yeah, it might be the very one conference you might go to. It might be somebody there that said, "Hey, that might be that child." You just went to Crime Con not too long ago, and you made a statement that I was telling you when we talked earlier that was really profound, because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how much emotion do you have attached to someone that you've only had for 5 days? Because you miss the elementary, you miss the graduation, possibly marriage, birth. We don't know if they have he has children or not. And you got to Crime Con, and you said, you looked around and you just said to you noticed, you was like, I might not never find my baby. What at Crime Con made you look around and kind of feel like you
Well,
were
what
hopeless?
I said is that, and that's what I said, Raymond's case may be hopeless. My case may be
Oh,
hopeless
okay.
because, it's so many things. I never had a picture of him. So the picture that is of Raymond, because all seven of my kids have the same dad, they took my husband's picture and all of the children and created what he may look like. Because I
Oh,
never
okay.
I never had a picture of him. So by me never having a picture of him, and the original file was lost. So you don't know what kind of investigation, what they came up with, anything. So for so many different reasons, you know, I do feel like I felt at that point, because and I guess I came to that at there because earlier that week I was at the missing and unidentified. It was in
Mhm.
Las Vegas as well, and I got the opportunity to sit in the room with maybe 45, maybe 30 law enforcement officers of all kind, and detectives on up, investigators and all that. And I got a chance to ask the question, and I asked them, I said, look, as a parent, if the case, because he talked about lost cases, lost files, and all those things there. And I said, so what does a parent do if the file's lost and it's been years and this, that, and the other? What does a parent do? And I'm so excited to be in this room to ask this question to them, and maybe I can get some feedback as to other things I could do. Nobody said nothing. Like they didn't know what else to do. So when I came out of that, only and one of the guys, the guy that was speaking said, "Well, I can just tell you to keep looking." Okay, use social media. That was it. So I felt defeated. That
Yeah.
was the first time I actually felt defeated, and I wanted to holler out, all you guys here, all this experience in this room, and that's all you got for me. So when I went out of the room, it just brought tears in my eyes, and I felt hopeless. All this was in that same week.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt hopeless, and I hadn't had that feeling before. But that particular time, and when I spoke that at Crying Come, I thought about it later because I've never felt hopeless before. But I guess my expectations of the experience that was in that room, I knew I was going to walk away with a new height, at a new level of what I can do and what the police can do. And when nobody had anything for me, it just kind of knocked me down for a minute. That's all. And so I was experiencing them emotions while I was there.
You know, to tell you the truth, I see you on I talk to you on quite a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
you just keep going and keep going and keep going, and you have to be one of the strongest moms that I know that I've talked to, because it's not very many people that can go to sleep at night for 40 something years knowing that they have a child out there somewhere and not knowing where they are. That's just, and not just that, that they're helping other families on top of the pain and grief that they've endured for 40 years. You
Well,
are a tremendous, tremendous um, person when it comes to this arena. And I want to tell you that. And I know that there's other people that believe that too. So before we even end that, I want to let you know that.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's just by the grace of God, because life gonna make you eat one way or the other. It's gonna make you bitter, or it's gonna make you better. That's what it's gonna do. And so we're gonna get knocked down. That's never. It's called life. You got your losses. You got all these here things, but you got to keep moving forward. You just got to keep moving forward. So I know that I believe in God, and I know that we used to sing the song, "He got the whole world in his hands." I believe that. So I know in his hands, me and Raymond, we connected. We're together right there in his hands. I don't know where Raymond at, but God do. And I know I'm his child. I know he loves me. So for whatever reason, he chose me. I do believe God give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And he said all things work together for our good, but he never said it had to look good, feel good, or taste good. He just said it was
Okay.
for our good. So, we have to look at it at, maybe that was for this. It gave me a purpose and a platform. Now I believe God. I believe every time I pray that if God don't bring my child home today, let him bring somebody's child home today. Let
Amen.
him ease somebody's pain today. It's not just my child, but mothers out there everywhere, millions and millions of families out there feeling like I'm feeling, hopeless, like, just wondering where. And I hear so much of that, and I see so much of that. This case, I just talked to somebody last week who child been missing since the child was like 18 months old, and the child, I think, is like 29 now, still missing. So you got all these cases out there and everything. So in my mind, I tell myself, every time a child come home, Raymond moves up a notch, and
That's right.
eventually it's going to be his time to come home.
That's
you
right.
know and I believe that. So I don't know why God chose me. I don't know why Raymond is missing. I don't know why I let her in, because I dealt with a lot of that too. People say, "Oh, she gave that baby away." And I remember another child got missing, and I was at the store, and they was had it on the news, and three of the ladies was standing there, and they was like, "I don't believe anybody just gonna walk in that house and take that child. She did something to that child," or something like that. Child still missing today, from my understanding. But I interrupt them. It happens. But back then when Raymond got missing, I was staying in the projects. So it was, she gave that baby away. She killed that baby. Don't y'all let her keep your baby. Or there go that girl that gave her baby away. That's what I had to deal with every day. That's what I
Wow.
had.
Hello?
So, um, yeah, so that's what I had to deal with every day. So when you never dealt with that before, it silenced you, and you just got to find a way to get through it because you ain't
Right.
got nobody to hold your hand and tell you it's gonna be all right. I wish somebody had told me at 16 that when my child got missing, that it was gonna be all right, but nobody did. I didn't have any support. So when you don't have that support like that, again, you can get bitter or you can get better. And I thank God with his mercy and his grace, it's just like you got an umbrella over you, and and what he did was I couldn't handle all of it. So he just let me bite off just enough that I could chew. That's all. I just enough. He didn't just put it all on me. So the weight of that he didn't lay on my shoulders at one time, because me having to deal with that and people saying I'm walking and people pointing to me saying that girl gave her baby away and that girl this and that girl that, and I began to look different with people. And then I had a best friend and some more people, and I happened to go down there just trying to get away from the crazy, and I walked in, but they didn't know I was standing outside the room, and they was like, I don't believe that she gave that baby away. She did something to that baby. They didn't know I was out there.
Those were your
So
friends?
those are my friends. So when you have to, and I never told them that I heard that. I just went on in with a smile. Where else I was gonna go? I wasn't. I just needed to belong somewhere.
At
So
16.
at 16, so I learned to adapt and adjust. If you laughed, I laughed, because I didn't know how to handle a baby being missing. So if I had to, I looked at other people and whatever they did, because if I laughed, they said that, look at her, she don't even care that she did something to that baby. Took her over there laughing. She don't even care her baby gone. And if I cried, they like, that girl going crazy. She needs some help. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
couldn't find a place. Nobody told me how to act or what to do. So I laughed when you laughed and I cried when you cried. I just wanted to be normal. So I took on your normal until I could figure out
You're
my own.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah. I told you we're the club that nobody wants to be in.
of course. Of course.
We're the club that
Definitely.
nobody wants to be in. Miss Donna
Definitely.
Green, I want to thank you. You have shared a tremendous story. I didn't even know a lot of these details that you shared tonight. I pray and hope that this reaches other mothers, other fathers, and other families, that it can help. If there was anything that you could say to Raymond right now, what would it be if he listened to this podcast?
I won't stop looking till I find you. I love you. I walk with you in my heart every day. You're a part of me. And I will not stop looking until I find you.
And what is a word of encouragement that you would give to other families for them to keep going?
Don't stop. Take it upon yourself. Do the flyers. Do anything. Minister to somebody. Talk to somebody that's got the same thing going on. Just keep moving. Because if you keep moving forward, you'll feel better. But if you stand still and you just let the pain consume you, it'll put you in another place that you don't want to be in, that dark place. So just keep moving forward. And if you can't, latch on to somebody like Tawana and others that done been through it, latch on to them and let them show you how to move forward in the face of your pain.
This is Missing Our Voice. This is Miss Donna Green. This is Raymond Green's mother, the advocate for missing children. We thank you today, Miss Donna, for you being on the show. And we thank everybody that listens. This is
The
Missing Our
pleasure was
Voice.
on mine. Thank you.
You're welcome.